Geico presents Our Town, Season 2, a 30-minute podcast produced by Best Bart Communications, a small but fierce client-centered marketing company powered by decades of experience and well-established business networks. Geico, 15 minutes can save you 15% or more on car insurance. Now, here's your host, Andy Ockershausen.
This is Our Town. This is Andy Ockershausen, and I have just a delightful guest here who's been a very dear friend for many years. He's a visionary in the real estate development. He's built close to 3 million square feet of office space and 3 hotels. He was building mixed-use office space before it was the rage. He saw the importance of technology even before Silicon Valley when he built Tech World. He saw the trends for senior living with Leisure World. His name is synonymous with Watergate. He came to America from Italy over 50 years ago, probably now over 60, to start a company and build a great future for our town and for our community. And I've seen him play tennis for many years. I've played tennis with him. He's a very dear friend who had discussions with his wife in 3 languages. I always got a big kick out of that. Welcome, Giuseppe Cecchi, to our town.
Thank you.
Which is really almost your town now.
Well, I've been here 57 years.
And you came?
I came for a 3-year assignment.
And stayed.
and I'm here after 57.
What was your first building? Was your first building Watergate?
Well, there was a building before Watergate. It was called Potomac Plaza Terraces, which was a little piece that came in the deal. You know, when we bought the Watergate site, it came with another piece in about a block away.
I got it.
And it had already drawings ready to go, and just to pick up a permit. At that time, it was easy to pick up a permit. Doesn't take 2 years like now. And so we decided to build that and as an experiment, as a pilot project.
Right, before the big
And
one.
we did 190 cooperative. At that time, condominium did not exist in Washington. So it was cooperative. We built a cooperative building with 190 units. It was successful. We made $1 million, I think, of profit, and so then the top of the company decided, let's go and develop the Watergate.
And you were born in Milano.
Yes.
And that's where you got into the learning how to be a builder. I mean, you went to college there. And
I went to college. I graduated as a civil engineer, as a structural and mechanical engineer, and then I went to work for this company, Società Generale Immobiliare, in Rome, and I worked for them for several years. And then when the opportunity came to come to America, they recruited me because I had a little English background. You know, I had spent a couple of vacations in Ireland, in the Channel, Jersey, near England, and
so you had
I had enough to qualify. I was a bachelor, so it was easy to move, less expensive to move. So they put me in the teams that they sent to. They opened 3 locations in this continent: one in New York, one in Mexico City, and one in Montreal. And I was a part of the New York office, and the task was to scout for business opportunities. And the business opportunity we found in New York was a piece of land in Washington. That there was a company in New York that had an option on the gas company land.
Where the big tanks were.
There was
I remember those big gas
gasometers,
tanks.
yes. And that they had the option, and at the time the option came to fruition. They didn't have the money to do it, so they were marketing it in New York.
Oh, I see.
And so that's where we captured it through an intermediary that we had there looking for opportunities. He found that.
Who owned the tanks? Did Pepco or a gas company own the tanks?
No, the gas company, Washington Gas.
Washington owned the tanks.
And then they moved down further.
They had to get away from the city, correct?
Right. And they had this piece of land that was optioned, and this company that bought the option was not able to exercise the option, so they sold it to us. And then we came, and of course...
You moved down here then?
I moved down here in July of 1960.
Did you cross the river then, or did you live in the city? I mean,
no,
you personally.
Personally, I live just across where Watergate is now in a building called Potomac Plaza.
But it's still there, but I know
Still
Potomac
there,
Plaza
Potomac
very
Plaza.
well. It's under
And
rent
so
control.
I rented a one-bedroom apartment. I made my office in the living room and my bedroom in the back, and I started like that, in
Montgomery
the
Mall.
beginning, very small, and then we started because at the time we hadn't decided really if to develop or what to do, and then we decided to develop, and it was the first mixed-use project in Washington, D.C. Before that time, they had to build only residential or commercial or...
I recall that lower levels were stores and shops and restaurants and
they passed,
bars and everything.
Right, they passed a new zoning ordinance that allowed, if you had 10 acres or more, to do a mixed-use project at that time.
How
And
many
we had
acres did you have?
10
50?
acres
10?
and a few feet.
Right.
just qualified, yes.
That qualified you.
And so
That was a
for us-
revolution in the building business, though, wasn't it?
Right. The mixed-use project.
mixed-use.
At that time, now everybody does mixed-use
Yeah, that's
projects.
right. You started
But at
it.
that time, we started it because my company, the Società Generale Immobiliare in Italy, was doing 80% of their business in mixed-use projects. We were
they knew
always
the
doing
business very
buildings
well.
where you had shops in the base and you had offices. On top, you had condominiums. That was the norm in Italy.
Right.
Here, it was something new. And we felt very comfortable and to do it, and so we pioneered these things, and it was a hell of a pioneering job, believe me, because it was the first time that
Absolutely.
the staff saw this, something like that. And in Washington, you get caught in between different jurisdictions, because at that time there was no mayor. There were the three commissioners, the federally elected commissioners, not elected, appointed. And so that was also the zoning commission. The three commissioners were also the zoning commission. And then there is a National Capital Planning Commission,
Oh, yeah.
which has its own agenda, is a federal entity, completely independent, and we fell under their jurisdiction because of the proximity to the river and whatever.
Right.
And then we have the Fine Arts Commission, which is another very independent entity, and they have their own agenda, and we fell under their jurisdiction too. And those are advisory to the Zoning Commission, but basically,
Right.
you have to please them all. And so if you please
Yeah,
the
you don't
Fine Arts
want-
Commission, you may not please the Zoning Commission, you may not please the Planning Commission. And so it was a very long, it took us about 2 years to get the project
Get it
approved.
approved.
And
Does that process still take that long in the city, or have they streamlined it?
well, I think it takes that long because now everything takes longer. So and
You're
when
right,
when you
yeah.
have different jurisdictions with different agendas, that you have to
Please a
pacify
lot of
and
people.
please, it takes a long time.
Well, Giuseppe, the things that you've done in the city and made our town so spectacular, but you also spread your wings into Northern Virginia.
Oh yes.
Was that all happening at the same time, or did you wait till you
That
did
after Watergate, because at Watergate I was still working for that Italian
the company in Rome, right?
and I was in charge of the construction of
Right.
the Watergate, and I was just the technical aspect of the project. I was coordinating design and construction, and that was a big task too, because we had an Italian architect, which was a genius. Luigi Moretti was one of the prominent architects in Italy at that time, and he designed this building with a stroke of his pen, and then we had to build it, and we had to convert
Had
it
to
from
plan it, right.
from strokes of pens in meters into design working drawings in inches.
Impossible.
And
But he was a
feet.
genius, correct?
He was a genius. I think the Watergate is
Yeah.
really a fantastic architectural project.
Sit down with a pencil and a piece of paper.
But he was that kind of prima donna genius that was designing. You couldn't change a comma of what he did, and it was and we hired a local architect here and I was sort of the marriage counselor between these two architects, and to try to, and the American architect was trying to produce some drawings that was buildable, and with the Moretti strokes of pen. And it took a while to get it going. So the first building, we had a lot of difficulties, and I think we had to use a computer to design all these little pieces of curve for the facade. That was not a geometrical curve; it was something freehand. So you had to.
It was a very ornate building when it was first built. I do recall that.
Yeah, the first building was very successful marketing-wise, but it costed us much more than we were expecting.
And then you built the hotel also, correct? At the same time.
After that, we learned our experience, and what we did, we created our own general contracting company called Watergate Construction Corporation. And that I was leading, and with that we made it easier to combine, the Italians, the Americans, and everybody.
Right, to get the results.
And the other buildings were very, very easy to build, basically because we learned everything from the first building. So the second building was a combination office hotel. The third building was another cooperative, Watergate West. And then the last building was a half office and half condominium, which was Watergate South.
Now, how long was the whole project? Sounds like 5 years or more.
More than that. We started construction in '64. We started construction. We between 60 and 61 we built the pilot project. 61 we started the process with Watergate. We finally got the construction started in '64. We completed the first building in '65, and then the project was completed in '71. So it took us about 7 years to build it, plus 3 years.
Amazing project.
But
and at that time, were you then thinking about going into your own business then? And
at that time, not yet. At that time, I was still thinking to continue to work here for Società Immobiliare, and actually we bought a piece of land in Alexandria where we developed a project that, against my good
your better judgment,
they called Watergate Watergate at Landmark.
At Landmark,
right,
yes.
Because they wanted to capitalize on the name of Watergate. Right. It had nothing to do with water there.
No, I know.
So it's the
I
name
know it well.
But
it was another high-rise, correct?
That is a complex of 5 high-rise buildings for a total of 1,500 condominium units.
Wow.
Because
that was owned by the same people in Rome?
No.
Money?
Yeah, same company. And I built about half of it, and then the company had some financial difficulties, and some of the stocks were sold because the Vatican used to have a substantial investment in all the public companies in Italy. This was a public company,
right?
And the Vatican divested themselves and sold it to a financing group that did some speculation, and they didn't go well. So the company decided to reduce their activity, and they said after that project we don't do anything more abroad, and we only will work in
right,
Italy.
So that they cut you loose. They didn't need you.
No, I had the choice to go back to Rome and work there, or to stay here and do something else. And by that time, I'd been here already 10 years.
Had you been married yet?
I got married in '68 during the Watergate building. I got married. I met Mercedes, and we got married, and I started having my children here.
And Mercedes worked for the airline, did she not,
yes,
when you met?
She was flying with Pan Am.
With a great airline, and she was flying all over the South, right?
Yeah, she flew Far East, she flew to Japan, to South America, to
I hope she
Europe.
took you on some trips.
No, The only trip was our honeymoon. Our honeymoon, she treated me because she was leaving Panam,
Right.
but she had still a 10. They paid 10% of the ticket. The employees.
The airline did.
They could buy the tickets at 90% discount. So in our honeymoon, we treated ourselves in a first-class trip from Montevideo to Brazil to Mexico.
Wow! All with Pan Am, of course.
All with Pan Am and back to here. So we had a 2-week honeymoon.
And did she go back to Italy with you at all to meet the family?
Every year we go back to Italy, and sometimes even more than one time.
Right.
Now, last year we did, and Mercedes sort of got concerned about what was happening in Europe with all the terrorism and so on, and so we decided not to go.
She's reluctant to go back, huh?
But this year we are going.
Oh, great!
This year we are going. We are going to Capri in June. End of June, we are going for 10 days there in Capri.
And you'll see your family in Milano? Are they still there?
Well, my family is only my brother,
Oh, is that
because
right?
everybody else.
I met somebody in your family years ago. I don't remember.
You may have
which
met
place
my
it was.
brother, who is a priest in Italy.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Well, you share with a very dear friend as Joe Novello. Do you know
Yes,
Joe Novello?
yes.
Of
Joe
course you
Novello
do.
is part of our group of dinners that we do.
Great guy.
Yeah.
Well, we've been talking to Giuseppe Cecchi about our town. The man that put an impact on this town nobody will ever match. And we'll be right back to talk about his wonderful life and his wonderful wife.
Okay, keep your eyes closed.
Okay.
I want to show you my first ever painting.
All right.
Okay. Open your eyes.
Oh, that's a lot of colors and shapes.
So be honest. What do you think?
Well, I like how if you switch to Geico, you could save hundreds of dollars on car insurance.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Here, why don't I hold your paintbrush while you call them?
Geico, because saving 15% or more on car insurance is always a great answer.
You're listening to Our Town.
This is Our Town. Andy Ockershausen talking to Giuseppe Cecchi, who's been a big light in our town and built so much in our city. But I remember most about you in later years. You crossed the river and did a project in Alexandria on the water, and in addition to your landmark thing, and you did a lot of conversions in Northern Virginia. That was an amazing business, was it not? The conversion?
Yes. I was really the first one to do a conversion. That was another first of mine that I experimented, and it worked very well. In Park
Fairfax
and Park East.
Right. I
Park
know them both
Fairfax
well.
Has about 2,600 units, and Park East is a high-rise. It's about 400 units. So a total of approximately 2,000 units. And we did that without one eviction, which was the trend at that time with the conversion was they were evicting the population living there in this low income
They were losing
units.
people.
And they were then renovating completely to another standard and then bringing in people of a different social and economic level. And instead I decided to try to come up with a way to keep the people that were there if they wanted to stay. And so I developed a plan where they could purchase their unit, renovated, purchase their unit for the same monthly cost
As they were paying rent.
As they were paying rent. And so for them it was a transition to have ownership, but to pay monthly what is the same. And how did I do that? In two ways. First of all, I limited the renovation to the essential that the homeowner cannot do, like replacing the plumbing and then doing major things, but no frills, no
frills,
no new refrigerator, no new whatever was there. And
the buyer had to provide that themselves if they wanted to upgrade.
If they wanted to upgrade, they were with their sweat equity, but so to keep the price low. Number one. Number two. In a project like that with about 2,000 units, there is always an attrition, a natural attrition. So about 5% every year gets vacated for some reason or another. And those units that were vacated, I didn't rent them again. I renovated them and I sold them to the public at a market price.
Market price, right?
So with the market price profit, I was able to subsidize the low price for the residents that wanted to stay
What a great thing
there.
you did for Northern Virginia.
And well, I have a book of letters of thank you for all those older people that didn't have to move, and we did the restoration. Also, another important thing, we did the restoration while the people living.
They stayed there.
We created some social rooms where they could spend the day while the water
you're
was
doing the
cut
work.
off and we were doing the work, and then at
Amazing
night
project.
they were going back to sleep in their own unit, and so that the first experiment we did in one of the houses that had burned down. So we used that as an experiment. It took us about 7 weeks to do the process of renovation. By the time we were done with the experiment, it took us about 10 days. In 10 days, we could do the whole renovation.
Because you had practice, a lot of practice.
Right. A lot of everything was you're moving like a.
I was
a
the
machine.
beneficiary when you went to the public sale because I through somebody, maybe the name Dick Lawton. Was Dick Lawton ever involved? The
Dick
banker.
Lawton, sure.
That I
The loans.
bought a unit on Martha Custis Drive, and I bought one in
Yes.
Park East. This is an investment.
Yes.
And it was fabulous.
Good investment.
Oh my God, what a wonderful place! But what you did to the grounds of Park Fairfax, that was built by Metropolitan Life. I know the story.
Yeah.
And that was beautiful land, and what you did at Park East back there with the tennis,
Yeah.
you had great tennis courts. I used to play there many years ago.
Yeah.
But Giuseppe, now how did you move then to the river? What is that? Vecchio? Is that what it's called? The one at the river?
Porto Vecchio.
Porto Vecchio,
Porto Vecchio was right on the river
right?
at the end of Alexandria, and that was just a nice condominium on the river. And we did that, and we did Carlisle Towers also. Carlisle Towers.
But they were all residential units, correct?
All condominiums.
All kind of right.
The
no
bulk
hotel.
of my activity was condominiums. That
Right.
was the backbone of our activities. Then
You knew the business very
occasionally
well.
we did office buildings. Occasionally we did hotels. We did mixed-use projects again, like Techworld and so on. But the bulk of our activity has been condominium. We did the senior communities of Leisure World of Maryland, where we built 2,800 units. And the Leisure World of Virginia, where we built 1,100 units, and then we were caught in 07, 08, we were caught by the recession, so we had to stop. And
You weren't alone. A lot of people got caught by it.
But I was
you
lucky.
survived.
I was lucky because I had one building almost sold out, only about 50 units left to sell,
Right.
and it was a painful sale, but we
You
eventually
handled your own sales, your company, correct?
Mhm,
You
yeah,
didn't
we
bring
had,
in any.
we had our own sales force.
Right.
Because we were doing so much condominium sales that it was economic to have our own sales organization.
And then I recall when you moved into the city and were doing something spectacular, you're building these buildings. I had no idea what you were. I'd only known you from reputation. And there was a problem between the two buildings that you were going to put a bridge.
Right.
And the city didn't like that, and we couldn't understand it. So one of our news people came and said, this is something you got to look at. And we looked at it and said, there's no reason for that. They're trying to stop a view of people that don't have a view anyway. And we did some editorials. And you kindly thanked us for doing it. And I don't know if it did any good or not, but that was the beginning of our relationship. And then to see what you did in building this hotel.
That was an uphill battle.
I know it was.
But we need, at that time, for the concept was to have high-tech companies using this building. So we needed the connection between the buildings. And we needed to make it all one
Absolutely.
center. And so we finally won the battle, but that was a
Very expensive.
Uphill battle, very uphill battle.
I recall it vividly.
Yeah.
And then when you were doing the dedication, Janice was there.
But we did it.
At that time, I was Hardin and Weaver's producer.
Uh-huh.
And so you had called and you had invited Hardin and Weaver to do the groundbreaking of Tech World. And we thought that was so innovative.
Absolutely.
Because you were such a forward thinker, a futurist. Before, as you said in the introduction, before Silicon Valley was even around, you had the idea of technology and putting people who are like-minded together. It was a wonderful concept.
Yes, I remember that groundbreaking.
Groundbreaking, yes.
We had the mayor there, we had the governor of Virginia there, and
it was a great event for our town, and it made a statement. Tech World, a wonderful, wonderful facility.
Yeah, and it didn't end up to be a high-tech center because eventually the market turned and
it shifted,
and so we leased it to regular businesses rather than be all high-tech.
But the idea, the thought, and bringing that kind of thinking.
Just having that name, I thought, was sensational.
Yeah.
And then we remember your hotel downtown.
Yeah.
Which was very successful.
800-room
Did you sell it, or do you still own it?
I sold it.
I think so.
You know, hotel is the most risky business in real estate development because you have an office building, you have leases. You have a condominium, you sell them, or you have rental apartment, you have leases. You have the hotel, you don't have anything. People come in and go out.
Come and go, right.
And so something happened, like 9/11.
Right.
The hotel was profitable until September,
and then
in the last 3 months became a huge loss.
Oh, bet. People stopped coming to town.
Well, there was no airport working, and so the hotel can change in a few months from profitable to losing because you don't have anything stable there. You don't have leases. So I
got out of the hotel business.
I've done several hotels. I've done the Vista International. I've done this one. I've done one in Ireland. But I decided to get out of it.
Bye hotel business.
And I sold it well. And so
good for you. Yeah. This is our town, and I'm talking Giuseppe Cecchi. This is Andy Ockershausen. We'll be right back.
Maybe your kids are about to graduate from college or even get their graduate degree. Or you're looking forward to retirement, finally. Don't go another day without getting your legal house in order. This is attorney Mike Collins. Let me show you how to get a basic estate plan in place that will protect you and your loved ones in the years ahead with our trademarked Reservoir Trust. All I ask is 2 hours of your time. Check the mail for your special invitation and register now at MikeCollins.com. I'll even waive the tuition. That's MikeCollins.com.
Hi, Tony Sybil here to tell everybody about our newest restaurant over off New York Avenue. It's called Ivy City Smokehouse, 1356 Oakey Street Northeast, right next to the Heck Company warehouse. It is terrific, and we have the only seafood smoker in the District of Columbia. So when you go to your grocery stores or your delis, ask for Ivy City products. 202-529-3300 or ivycitysmokehouse.com.
You're listening to Our Town with Andy Ockershausen. Brought to you by Best Bark Communications.
This is Our Town, Andy Ockershausen. We're talking to the man that built so much of our town and made it what it is, a wonderful, wonderful place to live. And he came from Italy, but he liked it so much he stayed. And he met a gorgeous stewardess from Pan Am, from Uruguay. And I know the family, and so she still has relatives down there, I'm sure.
Oh, yes, a lot. We had a family reunion 3 years ago, and we had about 150 people.
Wow.
At that lunch on a...
Where were you? Down at the...
down in Montevideo.
Oh, you did it down there, Montevideo.
Oh, yes.
Oh my! And that must have been wonderful.
We couldn't move 150 people here. It was easier to move our 21 there.
And you didn't have the priest. Your brother's a priest, correct?
My brother is a priest.
Did he come in for the reunion?
No, not for that reason.
Does he have a parish in Milan?
He did until he retired because my brother is now 81 years old, and so the priest, when they are 75 years, they're supposed to retire.
Is that right?
He was a pastor of a big parish in Milan. And he had to retire, and then now he's still a priest, of course. But
forever.
He works in another parish as just as a help.
And your boys, I know your 4 sons I said that would have been a great movie, My Three Sons, but this is My Four Sons.
My Four Sons.
Watching your kids be born and grow up is sensational, and 3 of them are in the business. I bet that makes you very proud.
I'm proud, and I'm thankful, because this is a blessing. You talk to a lot of friends of mine, other people, and the boys or the girls, they go to college someplace
and leave,
and then they leave, and they are miles away. And here I have my 4 sons, 3 work with me, so that's a good recipe to keep them close to home, But the 4th one, who doesn't work for me, is also staying here. So I have them, all 4 of them. 2 live 3 blocks from my house. 1 lives in Georgetown, 1 lives in Alexandria. But I have them all over. The grandchildren, they come over all the time.
Well, we enjoy every year so much, Giuseppe, for, I don't know, I guess 20 years, 25 years, how long it's been. You sent a Christmas card out with it.
Yes.
When there were 4 little boys.
Right.
And now this looks like We the People. Like 21 grandchildren.
Yeah, we are 21 in that
great.
picture.
We love it. There's something to look forward to. Now, one of your boys was going to be a chef. Did he ever follow that?
Yes, that's the first one. That's the one that doesn't work for me. And he graduated as an architect, so I thought he would be the only one working with me. And instead it ended up that he decided to become a chef after he graduated. So I sent him to Italy, and he did experience in several top restaurants in Italy. And then he came back, and he had a position as a sous chef in Galileo, Roberto Donna, at that time. The best Italian restaurant in Washington. But then he got married. And that doesn't work, the chef.
The hours that kill him.
Because he would work until midnight every night, So he stopped being a chef, and he went to work for a catering company.
But he had a good background, good education.
Yes, absolutely. So he's doing good. He's doing good. He has 3 girls. And
there was a man that owned the biggest advertising agency in America, and he said the greatest training he ever got was working in Paris as a chef, as an assistant to a chef, where he learned all about life and business, and a great experience. His name was David Ogilvy. He was a Brit, but he worked in Paris. And I think about that when I thought about your son.
Yeah.
What a marvelous thing it is to be a chef, though.
Oh, yeah.
To create.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a very creative role, correct? Yeah. And you were creating, too, when you're building this building.
I like cooking also.
You like to eat. Well, Giuseppe, what does the future hold for you, for the company? You're involved still in a lot of...
I'm old, so I would have retired already.
You're never going to
earlier, but I have my sons that work with me, so now I've given them more responsibility. So they're basically, the 3 of them are running the operation of the company. I'm still the CEO, and I watch over what they're doing.
Right.
But I'm comfortable that the day I'm not there anymore, they have so much. They worked for me for over 20 years, and now they are responsible. They are all managing directors of the company, and
John was your latest one to join you, correct?
John, yeah,
he got
John
married and so
our
forth.
Baby, yes.
The John was the baby. Now, what about your plans for retirement? You're going to stay. You can't retire. You're too vital.
No. I think many friends of mine, after they retire, they get sick. They age much faster. So you have to be involved, and if you like it, and I like it. And I'm lucky because it's my own company. Otherwise, I couldn't work. Nobody would keep me working at 87 years old.
You got nobody to complain to.
But I can stay involved, and that keeps me going.
Well, what about Mercedes? She's still playing tennis, of course.
She's playing tennis. She still has her boutique. She's still running her boutique, and she plays tennis. And
she's very active, and I know you were for a while. I hope that
younger than me, but
rest that shoulder and see if it can come back, because I know how much you liked it, and it was an important part of your life, tennis. You build your own court, of course.
Yes, sure.
I'm surprised you didn't buy that indoor club out there by you, but it was in someone else's building.
Right.
You didn't want to do that. Giuseppe, I can't tell you how much we appreciate what you have done for our town, and all the things that you give so much to it, all the charity work you do, all the things you're involved in, because you got so much from our town, but you gave it so much too. And they do go together.
Sure.
When you give, you receive.
It's a two-way street.
You're a perfect example of that. And all the people are so happy that your sons are getting involved in the community now. Enrico, I see him at the Board of Trade, and I've known John since he was a child, and I can't thank you enough for all you do. And I don't know, Jenny, is there anything that you want me to ask Giuseppe about?
No, it was a wonderful interview. We just wanted to say thank you because you have made a major impact in the city.
And us, too, because of what you did with the, when we got involved with Tech World, when we got involved with your hotel as friends. It was great. I can't remember, was the guy named Gersten that used to be your agent advertising? Yes. Is he still alive?
Marvin, no.
Marvin.
He passed away.
And Marvin was delightful.
Marvin was a great advertising person,
Yeah. Because Marvin called me when we did the editorial. I'll never forget that. I said, we don't know this man. We don't know anything about him, but the city is tying him up, and that's wrong. And the city should pay for that. But that was a long time ago.
Yeah.
But it was great. Giuseppe,
that was the time where I was doing uphill battles. Now I don't do uphill battles anymore. I just select.
Stay back and let it happen.
Right.
This has been Our Town. Andy Ockershausen talking with Giuseppe Cecchi, and the man has got so much love, and it's expressed in so many ways. And thank you for Our Town.
Thank you.
You've been listening to Our Town, Season 2, presented by Geico, our hometown favorite, with your host, Andy Ockershausen. New Our Town episodes are released each Tuesday and Thursday. Drop us a line with your comments or suggestions. See us on Facebook or visit our website at ourtowndc.com. Our special thanks to Ken Hunter, our technical director, and WMAL Radio in Washington, D.C. for hosting our podcast. And thanks to Geico. 15 minutes can save you 15% or more on car insurance.